And for one more final time, I am going to do a review of The Mandalorian. This is, of course, the final episode called The Return. And speaking of returns, Star Wars returns to the big screen in less than a week. Just a few days until we all get to see the new Star Wars movie, and I am hyped for it. I don't care about anyone else. I don't care about what reviews may say. I am looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fun time. But without further ado, let's talk about this episode. So Bo leads the group of Mandalorians away to safety, and meanwhile Din of course is captured and Grogu helps him escape. And this is easily one of the strongest parts of this entire episode. Grogu and Din working together to take out so many foes. Like, it just goes to show how much of a journey the two have been on since the very first episode. Like, when they first met, Din instantly felt a connection, but of course, Grogu was not well known with the Force. Now he is trained a bit. He is using the Force to actually do a lot throughout this episode, taking out the Praetorian guards, protecting Din and Bo when the fireball is right around them. There are so many great moments for Din and Grogu working together throughout this episode that it really feels like a full circle moment for the both of them. And it was also cool to see Din kick some ass, because he gets his ass kicked throughout the show a lot, but he actually gets to do something throughout this episode. When he activates R5 to go through the shield one by one, and he takes out all these Imperials with the Beskar armor, he actually is pretty cool in like taking all of them out. And I'm like, wow, finally Din actually gets to do something. Of course, he does get his ass kicked a little bit by the Praetorian guards, but then again, there are 3 Praetorian guards and there's Moff Gideon, and yeah, it makes sense that they would have a bit of an upper hand, but then Din gets some help, he gets out of there, and it's just cool to see him actually do a lot throughout this episode. It's like, yes, this is what The Mandalorian is supposed to be, you know? Din, our main character, the Mandalorian, kicking ass. And I honestly found using R5 quite funny in this situation, because on the one hand, of course, R5 is useful, he helps Din, but he gets found out by the mouse droid, and there are several mouse droids coming in, and I feel this is the only ever time in all of Star Wars canon, at least in terms of on-screen appearances, that mouse droids actually got to do something. We're used to mouse droids kind of being a little bit of a joke, a little bit of just a tiny droid beeping around the halls. And by the way, I think that this is the most that we ever saw from a mouse droid before this.
You ain't never gonna believe what I just seen, Tyra Banks. Oh, see, now you say something better, so my thing don't sound cool no more.
So it was cool to see mouse droids actually being somewhat threatening, somewhat of an issue, even though R5 just flies away and one of the mouse droids falls off the cliff. But speaking of threatening Imperial troops, the moment that all the TIE interceptors launch and go into the sky and they take out the light cruiser, it's like, damn. These troops are organized, and it just goes to show that Gideon knew what he was doing, setting up this base, making all those troops and all the TIEs. However, Axe Wolves was just a little bit quicker in making sure that the entire light cruiser was evacuated, so he is the only one left on the ship. And it also is so cool to see all the Mandalorian forces go into battle, like Bo with the Darksaber leading the charge, and all the fighters coming in, and they're like, let's take back our planet. It's like, yeah, come on, this is what we have wanted to see since the beginning of the show, maybe, but definitely since the beginning of season 3. Ever since we got the promise that the Mandalorians are going to take back their home planet, I'm like, yes, let's see it. It took a while to get here, and we got a lot of fillery bullshit along the way throughout season 3, but at least we're here now. And I think this entire action sequence of the Mandalorians taking back their home planet, defeating Gideon, is pretty cool. And also just the way that the fight develops, because as I said, the TIEs take care of the light cruiser above, but of course Axe Wolves was already there to evacuate, and then the light cruiser just goes into the entire base. And in the meantime, Din is fighting against Moff Gideon and the Praetorian guards, and he needs a little bit of help of Grogu, so Grogu comes to help out, but then Grogu needs some help, so Din helps out Grogu, and Bo takes on Moff Gideon. The Darksaber gets destroyed. Oh my god. this is something I completely forgot, that the Darksaber got destroyed, and I'm curious if they're going to try and mend it, maybe. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I do think that the Darksaber does need to be restored in some capacity, because it's been a symbol for the Mandalorian culture, for the Mandalorian leader, for like millenniums at this point. It's been a part of their culture for such a long time that I do think the Darksaber needs to be restored. So I'm curious to see if that'll happen in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, or maybe afterwards at some point, but we'll see about that. But yeah, then Bo and Din and Grogu at the end taking out Moff Gideon, and of course, to be fair, Gideon gets taken out by the fact that the light cruiser crashes into his base. But it's also just an absolutely beautiful moment when Grogu uses the Force to protect Din and Bo, just the three of them in a nice little bubble. I'm honestly curious to see if Bo is going to somehow be involved with Din and Grogu. I'm not entirely sure, especially based off the end of this episode, but I do think Din and Bo, there's something there in terms of chemistry, and a lot of people have shipped the two together. I won't be too upset if it doesn't happen, but I do think there is something, and especially considering the amount of people that have been wanting it, it's like, okay, we had Reylo in the sequel trilogy that a lot of people liked, and now we have Din Bo in these, in the series, so it's like, listen to the fans. Maybe you want to do something with that. But one of the most beautiful moments, I think, is the moment that Din officially adopts Grogu, and that they actually give the name to Grogu as well. I do find it a little bit weird that he is called Din Grogu, because apparently it's like Chinese names where the first name is the last name or something. It's a little confusing to me, but either way, it's just a beautiful moment, I think, for them. Again, coming full circle, like, based on what we saw throughout this entire series, them bonding together, and now Din actually saying, okay, you're gonna be my son, officially. Like, sure, he's adopted, but it really goes to show how much they care about each other. And Grogu is also just so happy with it. It's like, it's so cute. And another beautiful full circle moment, I think, is when they activate the furnaces and Bo stands there in front of all the Mandalorians who are shouting for Mandalore. It's like, yes, again, this is what we have wanted to see for the entire season. It took a long detour to get here, but at least we're here. And it's a very beautiful, nice moment for the Mandalorians. I'm just curious, though, how are you going to restore the planet after it's been completely fucked up? Because the entire planet is glass. Like, look at this. Look at the goddamn dome that is completely destroyed. How are you going to rebuild that? It's going to take a very long time for them to rebuild it. And there are not a whole lot of Mandalorians, but I just hope that, the restoration of Mandalore is actually going to lead something, instead of, us building up towards this entire thing of, oh, they finally took back Mandalore, and then for them to abandon the thing altogether and have them be destroyed or something. It's like, that would be a fucking dick punch. Like, why would you do all that work to just say, nah, we're not going to continue with that? Anyway, Din goes to Carson to offer his services to him and the New Republic, and then, of course, Din and Grogu settle on Nevarro in their little house. And at the very end, there's one issue that people have complained about, and I also have a little bit of an issue with it, and that's that Din does not take off his helmet. Look, it's not going to ruin my experience or my enjoyment of this episode. I still think it's a really good, fun episode. It's just, I do think if he had actually taken off his helmet just for a moment, that would also have been character growth, for him to have gone through everything that he went through throughout the entire show with, the entire bit of taking off the helmet and everything. It could have been a nice moment, and I do think that it would have been something that they should have done. But again, it's not going to ruin my enjoyment. It's just something that I really hope he's going to be a little bit more okay with in the future. Just not have a stick up your butt and be so zealous about it, because that's one thing that has been a bit of an issue, I think, also for him. Like, he himself, Din, has been way too zealous with his helmet, and it has caused some problems in the past. And the thing is, we also see in the trailers for the new movie that there are scenes when he has his helmet off. Now, it might be forced off, that, you know, he's in binders and someone took the helmet off for him. But if he has the helmet off in the new movie because it's now more normal for him to have that off and he doesn't have to atone for it every fucking time he does it, like, then how about you just take off your helmet and show your new son your face? Would have been nice, right? Anyway, I'm not going to harp too much on that because I do want to just say I really enjoyed these last 2 episodes of Season 3. Season 3 as a whole is a bit of a mess. It's a lot of filler, it's a lot of nothing, it's kind of weak, and there are times that you're honestly frustrated because you know that there is a lot of potential in the show, in the entire Mandalorian as a whole. Because let's be fair, the entirety of the Mandalorian as a show is not perfect. There are fillery things in there where you're honestly like, can we get to the point where we're actually going along with the main plot where cool shit is happening again? But in the end, these final 2 episodes did rectify a lot. They righted a lot of wrongs. Not everything, and the Mandalorian is far from perfect, but at the very least I can say that I enjoy these last 2 episodes for what they are, and they still make me excited for the movie. So I am looking forward to the movie. Based on these last 2 episodes, I think there is a lot of good to be had in the movie, and that's why I'm looking forward to it still. Like, it's always been pretty clear to me that Favreau and Filoni know what to do with Star Wars. They are big fans of the franchise. They know how to integrate certain kind of ridiculous elements as well. And at times those ridiculous elements have worked, and at times they haven't, at least for me. Other people may disagree with that, other people may disagree with what has worked and what hasn't, but either way, I do think in the end that they know what they're doing, and they're going to give us a fun movie. So that's why I personally am excited to see the movie in a couple of days' time. And also because, you know, it's the return of Star Wars to the movie theater. I am going to go to Amsterdam to IMAX because that's the biggest IMAX theater in the country. It's going to be a 2-hour train ride, and I'm gonna be dressed as Thrawn for an entire 2-hour train ride there because I want to cosplay, I want to have fun with it, so it's going to be a big day for me in that regard. Regardless of if the movie turns out to be any good or not, I do think it should be fun at the very least, so I don't think it's going to be a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It probably also will not be the greatest movie that we have seen in the Star Wars franchise, so I will effectively limit my expectations. Like, I'm looking forward to a fun movie that's like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's not going to be a 10, but it's also not going to be a 5 or lower. So in that regard, I think we should be okay, and I am going to have fun for the first time cosplaying as Thrawn, going to the cinema with, you know, probably a bunch of other Star Wars fans who also want to see it opening weekend. So that should be fun at the very least, right? But that is about everything that I can say about The Mandalorian as a whole, my expectations for the movie, and all that. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think of this episode? What did you think of Season 3 as a whole? What did you think of The Mandalorian as a whole? And also the Book of Boba Fett, because the Book of Boba Fett is a part of the entire thing. And what are your expectations for the movie? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. So as I said, I am going to see the movie in just a couple of days' time, and I am going to have several videos based on me watching the movie, because I am also going to make a video about the experience of cosplaying as Thrawn. This will be the first time that I'm actually full-on cosplaying. I have had like costumes in the past, but I spent so much time and money on getting the makeup and everything. I'm gonna dye my hair black, for example. I have red contacts. My skin is gonna be blue. The entire costume, so that's gonna be fun. But I think that could also be a fun video. So like an entire time lapse of me getting the makeup on and the way I look. So look out for that video. Look out for a spoiler-free review of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Look out for a spoiler-filled review of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. All of that is coming somewhere in the next week. I'm not entirely sure when, but it will come, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to my channel for that kind of content because, hey, I'm the Dutch Star Wars guy. I talk about Star Wars a lot, so look out for that. Please leave a like on the video, and of course, until the next time, may the Force be with you.